For Union Hall, right here in Marion. Take care. Here's welcoming you to the Wednesday midday edition of The Exchange here, joined by my good pals Fritz the Night Owl, Marianne Michaels, and Charlie Evers. And as you know, every Wednesday we're joined by another good friend, Dr. Scott Gray, who we'll get to in just a moment. But first we need to check in with our sponsors, as today's episode of The Exchange is brought to you by Night Owl Theater, located on the net at fritzlives.com. For more info, email nightowltv@yahoo.com. Bucyrus Placemats. To put an ad in, call Wayne at 419-562-8473, located at 116 Wayne Avenue in Bucyrus, also on the net at bucyrusplacemats.com. And by the Ohio Neck and Back Pain Relief Center, Scott M. Gray, D.C., across from the Marion Center between TSC and Kroger. Call 740-386-6580, and we certainly thank them all. And as we do each and every day, especially on the midday edition, we're going to head to our good pal, the horribly dressed Charlie Evers, the fashion don't, as I like to call him.
Well, yeah, as of yesterday's program, I got rid of my tie.
Yeah. Your confidence is ruined.
Yes. But I want to tell you something that not many people talk about in Marion. Back in the good old days, as they're called, they used to have the numbers racket. In fact, it was all over the country. People used to open up magazines and claim that there'd be numbers in the binding, and those numbers would be tips on what to play next. And of course it was all illegal, but you could go to any bar in town and a lot of other establishments and play the numbers. And I did when I was a kid. I used to save my nickels and spend about a nickel a day. You could box the numbers, just like I think they do it on the Ohio Lottery now.
Now what's playing the numbers mean?
Well, you pick out a number and you put your money on it, and if that number coincides with something to do with the New York Stock Exchange that day, why, you're the big winner.
Now, who was your broker or?
Oh, a man that we only knew by the name of Bluegrass. Bluegrass had a satchel that he would hitchhike from Bucyrus to Marion and back. And in that satchel, who knows what was in that satchel other than money. But, yeah, Bluegrass, never forget him.
Where is he at?
6 feet under. Pushing up daisies.
Every time I ask you that, these people are dead, Charlie.
That's right.
Bring me somebody alive tomorrow.
Well,
I want somebody living. Not Bluegrass or the players or somebody living.
Well, I tell you, if people watch or listen to Bucyrus, they know what I'm talking about when I say Bluegrass.
Left quite a mark over in the Bucyrus area. Well, we're going to head on over to our other pal with a flick pick. Fritz the Night Owl on this Wednesday. Fritz?
Tonight we go to the great director Alfred Hitchcock. One of his most talked about and popular films, one of his most unusual. It's Vertigo from 1958. Stars are James Stewart, Kim Novak, Barbara Bel Geddes. Sidetrack here, you may remember Barbara Bel Geddes best as Mama Ewing, JR's mother on the old show Dallas. Nonetheless, in Vertigo, James Stewart is a retired detective who is hired by a friend of his to keep an eye on the friend's wife, played by Kim Novak. Naturally, Jimmy Stewart falls in love with Kim Novak, the lady he's watching. In addition, he has a former lady that he was in love with who died, and so now he's trying to recreate Kim Novak in the image of his past girlfriend, his past love. Adding to his problems, he has severe acrophobia, which was one of the reasons he had to leave the police force in the first place. He experiences extreme fear of height, and he gets incredible dizziness and visions of unreality, which is called vertigo, which is representation of the acrophobia, hence the movie's title, Vertigo. And to create the vertigo effect, Alfred Hitchcock had tried to do this thing where he would both take the camera and dolly out and zoom in at the same time. He tried it in Rebecca, didn't work, but by the time Vertigo came around in 1958, he had it right. Cost him $19,000 to get the effect, but it was an effect never before seen in any other film, and is a completely unique Hitchcock movie shot. And again, that alone for the movie freaks out there is worth watching Vertigo. Bernard Herrmann wrote again one of his great movie scores. Always the music is great. Catches the haunting, dreamlike, surrealistic mood of the film. Definitely one worth watching. Definitely make sure that you are permanently secured in your easy chair or Barca lounger when you're watching it. You may fall out and experience vertigo. Alfred Hitchcock, 1958, James Stewart, Kim Novak.
Vertigo was a great movie. That's one of the ones I have seen. Alfred Hitchcock, I love anything he did. And Barbara Bel Geddes. Boy, was she great in that movie, and she was great as Miss Ellie.
Yeah, Miss Ellie.
On Dallas. Boy, she was just I had a touch of Vertigo at one point, but that's a good movie. Vertigo is a terrible thing, by the way.
I've had it.
It gets in your ear, and oh, it's horrible. Can't get out. It's a mess. Anyway, as we do each and every Wednesday, we're joined by our good pal, Dr. Scott Gray. Doctor, how are you?
Very good today, thank you.
I'm glad you were able to come in. Now, did you see the malfunctions going on over here?
I did, yes. We had a little microphone malfunction.
Little
and,
microphone
I think
malfunction.
everyone else missed it, but it was quite entertaining for us.
It was poor Charlie once again. And you were an engineer at one point, right, Charlie?
That microphone got to be a pain in the neck.
Yes, it did, absolutely. Hey, there you go, nice tie-in. Now, Doctor, what's new in the world of chiropractics?
Well, actually, I was coming over here today, and I was thinking about a story of when I grew up, and really one of the reasons I got into chiropractic, besides the car accident that I had, one of the reasons that I went to a chiropractor was because of one of my grandmothers. And when I grew up, we had our family obviously living together, and then both of my grandmothers lived with us as well. So I had that opportunity and that privilege, and I wasn't spoiled or anything, having two grandmothers living with me, not at all. But two grandmothers, and of course my last name is Gray, so I had Grandma Gray, and then I also had Grandma Brown. So we had two colors there. My mom, when she got married, she just went from brown to gray, just switched colors. And it was easy to tell them apart. A lot of my friends, when they came over, they would ask, which one's which. Grandma Gray had gray hair, Grandma Brown had brown hair. So it was easy enough to know which one was which. But, I was thinking about it, when I think about growing up with my grandmothers, my Grandma Brown was one who liked to sit and watch a lot of TV. She didn't get outside a whole lot. She wasn't out in the yard working, wasn't up exercising, walking around. And actually, by the time my grandma was in her 70s, she had lost about 6 inches. And this was due to some serious spinal problems that she had at that time. And of course, being younger, I didn't know anything about spinal problems at the time, and I wish I did now that I look back on it. But she suffered from a lot of pain. She used a walker to get around, and had to help her a lot when we'd go to church and go out to eat. And she just had a lot of pain, and her life near the end there was not very comfortable for her. It was very tough for her. And we lost her in her mid-70s, where my other grandma, Grandma Gray, she's the kind of lady that she's always out in the yard. She's always out doing something. She's got to be up, moving around. She would clean the house. And one thing that would drive my mom crazy is she'd go and clean our rooms for us because she needed something to do. And so, my mom's like, they're not going to pick anything up. Their wives are going to hate you once they get used to that. But my Grandma Gray was always moving around, always doing things, and, always active. And my grandma went to a chiropractor since she was very young. So she's had chiropractic care for many, many years. And it's always kept her going. And she's now, I believe, 88, 89, and she's running circles around us still. And she's just got a lot of get up and go. And she's still outside mowing the grass. She's still out there planting flowers. She's still doing all of those things. And when I look back at that, I've never really put it together before. You look at people's lifestyle, And the amount that they move around, the activity that they do, and the effect that it has on their health. And if you look at my grandma's, my grandma Brown, who had lost 6 inches with serious spinal problems, those were never taken care of. And, I wish to this day that I could go back and, be able to help her, help her to have longer life, help her to encourage her to be more active. But I just didn't know those things at the time. And, it's one of those things. I just got married in the last year, and my grandma Gray was able to be there. And, she has a good relationship with my wife now. And my grandma Brown, never got that. So it's one of those things that our health has such a big effect on relationships and everything. So it's just something I was thinking of, and how our activity level and how we take care of ourselves really affects our health.
Something that's interesting, one of the things there is that older people do lose height as they get older. What effect does that have on the back?
That's actually caused by the back typically, and that is their discs, those little shock absorbers in between each one of the bones. If you remember, we've got 24 bones in our spine, and there's a disc or a little pad in between each one of those. And over time, those can start to break down. We've heard of herniations and bulges before. That's when those will actually start to bulge out and get smaller in between. So you can get shorter that way, as well as curvatures in the spine. A lot of people have heard of scoliosis before, and that's, if we look at ourselves from the front, we should be straight up and down, but sometimes that spine can start to curve. And if it does that, we can have something called scoliosis. And as people get older, that will continue to get worse. A lot of people have thought that, once you reach skeletal maturity around 20 to 25 years of age, that your scoliosis is going to stop. But it doesn't do that. It will continue to get worse, and people can continue to shrink. As that curves more, we get shorter, we get smaller. And that will have a lot of effect on the back, of course, causing more back pain for people, causing more neck pain, but it's also going to cause other problems as well with the other areas of the body that the nerves come out. Remember, those nerves come out in between the bones, and if those start getting irritated, you can have all kinds of problems.
Well, you see, I've seen men and women who are very much bent over, and they can't, they have to be that way. That's the way they walk, and it's really sad. Is that from the same thing, or is that osteoporosis?
Very good. You're right on there, Marianne. When you see the more severe cases where they're bent over, it's typically what's called a Dowlinger's hump that's from osteoporosis. Okay. What happens there is the front of our vertebra, those bones in there, they'll start to break down, and they'll actually get smaller in the front. They'll collapse in the front, and that creates more of a curve there. So then we end up like this, and you're stuck there once it happens.
And these are mostly older people that probably didn't know about osteoporosis tests, because I have one taken ever so often.
Yes.
And a lot of times it's women that need it
Definitely,
more than men, but I've seen men that have been way over, and it is so sad.
It is.
To be able to, when I see it, my heart sinks.
And it's one of those things that's preventable too.
Right.
A lot of people don't realize what causes osteoporosis, and not to give a whole seminar here on osteoporosis, but making sure that we're getting enough calcium and vitamin D. Those are, very big and important for us to have. And avoiding things that take calcium out of our bones. Such as a pop, a soda pop, or even a diet pop. Anything that's acidic, okay? Anything that raises the acid level in your blood, in your body, which a pop will do because it's got phosphoric acid in it. Meat, red meats have a lot of acid in them, so you can still eat red meat. It's just.
What about orange juice? So that has acid.
Yes, that will raise your acidic level in your body. So anything that has acid in it will raise it, and your body has to be at a very specific level of acidity, and your body will do anything that it can to balance that out, because if it doesn't, you'll die. So what it will do, the easiest place to get something that will get rid of that acidity is to pull calcium out of the bones. That's the most accessible place to buffer that, and that's how a lot of us lose bone mass. So there's a lot of foods you can avoid, such as the acidic things, the orange juice and the pop and those types of things, and then also making sure you're getting that calcium to replenish, because your body always needs calcium, it always needs vitamin D.
And in your book you say don't eat a lot of sugar.
That's correct.
Oh, and I love ice cream.
Sugar is now becoming known as a toxic substance. because of the damaging effects. You know, the sugar that we have is a very refined sugar. It's not like sugar cane. It's not the natural sugar that we have. You look at table sugar, very refined, and especially we've all heard of the high fructose corn syrup. They're actually finding now the way that that has an effect on the liver is just the same as alcohol. So just as people get liver damage from alcohol, you can get the same from drinking a lot of pot or eating a lot of foods with high fructose corn syrup. Even your bread has high fructose corn syrup in it.
Wow.
So you've got to pay very close attention to your things that you're getting in the grocery store. And you can find bread that doesn't have high fructose corn syrup in it, but it's tough. About 90% do.
If you try to do a balancing act and say you drink a lot of soda or orange juice, but then you eat a lot of cheese and things that would balance, does it ever balance? I mean, how do you get that going if you don't want to give up the stuff?
I would just try to minimize it, because it is a balancing act. I don't try to encourage people to totally give up things because it's going to drive you crazy, first of all. And you can't really have a perfect diet, okay? But you can do things. So if you're used to having 6 pops a day, try to cut it back. Have one less a day for the first week, cut another one back the next week, and try to get down to where you're having maybe one as a gift for you at the end of the day, or something to reward yourself for not drinking pop all day, or just do it that way to minimize what you're eating that's bad.
And just imagine these young people, the children that just love the sodas and they start drinking at a very young age, and then it really gets bad.
Yeah, and then you look at sugar, and they're relating it to everything now. Heart disease, obviously diabetes, but every cancer, tumors feed on sugar. You look at all these different diseases, sugar has a direct effect on them. So it's one of the biggest things that we need to be very aware of in our food sources.
One thing that struck me when you were talking about your grandmothers there, about the grandmother Brown not being active, grandmother Gray being active. What if you're in a job for 8 hours a day, a desk job? Because it seems like all the factory jobs have gone away. We're all data entry now.
Yes.
So what do we do? Because 8 hours a day, we're tied to a chair.
Definitely. A couple simple things that you can do. Just doing some simple stretches there at the office to keep your back more mobile, so we're not just sitting in one position all day. If you have the opportunity to stand up and stretch a little bit, that's a great way. When you get home at night, have dinner, and then as the weather's getting better like it is now, go out and have a 30-minute walk. A 30-minute walk can do wonders for your health. It's just amazing how it gets the blood flow going, and to do that at the end of the day is a wonderful way just to keep active. And it's a very simple thing that makes huge advances in your health.
Every time you're here, I learn something new. It's very fascinating, and I always have felt that chiropractics is one of those things that it's ever going, ongoing. Because you just learn and learn and learn. Look at that's tied into osteoporosis. It's tied in, the sugars you eat. I would have not known that sugar was a main feeder for cancers and things like that. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
You do have the book out. We want to mention the book again, Good Back, Bad Back, the 10 Things Women Must Know to Eliminate Back Pain and Look and Feel Younger. Dr. Scott Gray, you can get this where all fine books are sold. And is it still available on the net, Dr. Gray?
It is. You can still get it for free at the goodbackbadback.com.
Perfect.
So, yep.
And as the title says, for women, but Mary Ann was saying her husband read the book.
Yeah, he read it, and you can read it in one sitting. That's what's nice about it, because it's not complicated. It's very well written, and because Ted, he couldn't sleep one night, and he saw that on the coffee table, and he picked it up, and he read the whole thing, and he complimented you on it.
Thank you.
It's an easy read. It's very good. Charlie, your wife eventually came back, I hope, from the chiropractor's appointment last week.
She came back yesterday.
She did? Whoa, that's a long time. So, how was she? Better?
Great, yeah.
Yeah, see what it can do. It's,
But one thing I need, though, is a stationary bicycle so she can
That's
get
what
some
I have.
exercise.
Yeah.
now, stationary bicycle as opposed to a treadmill, which is better, or does it depend on your
I know
ailment?
the answer to that.
Definitely a bicycle.
Okay.
Because one of the big problems with the treadmill is just the impact that it puts on your joints. And the bicycle is going to be a lot less weight bearing, and your hips, your knees, and your ankles are all going to last a lot longer using that, or even doing some exercises in the pool. The YMCA has some great programs for that.
My orthopedic doctor told me not to use a treadmill because your feet are up like this instead of flat. You're better off to walk outside
Yes.
instead of on a treadmill, because your feet are like this and they should be flat down.
And also when that treadmill, that thing is moving, so when you step down, it actually can jam your joints and cause more problems with your toes as well.
Now, a recumbent bike as opposed to walking outside, which is better?
Honestly, you're going to be
Good anyway.
6 in one, half a dozen in the other.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's very interesting stuff, I think.
I was trying to find a bicycle that has one of those boxes on the front with bells, and you sell ice cream bars. My wife could circle the neighborhood, ringing the bells and selling ice cream bars.
Your wife, you want her to sell ice cream bars, you're selling Avon. What's going on in that house?
Oh, it's a crazy household.
My goodness, stop by Charlie, see what's going on there. Fritz, do you have anything to add to the doctor's?
Only that, two things. One is I'm actively and negatively involved with both scoliosis and osteoporosis. But I was going to ask, what about supplements, pills?
Yeah, definitely. Calcium is a great supplement to do. I always tell people the first thing you want to do is make sure you're getting it in your food, okay? Before you even think about supplementation, eat a lot of green leafy vegetables. You think about the biggest animal in the world, an elephant. It's a vegetarian. It just eats green leafy stuff, and it has the biggest bones in the world, so it's got enough calcium for it. So make sure you're getting it out of there, but also you want to make sure that you're getting a good supplement. Some of them use calcium carbonate, which doesn't absorb well. Calcium citrate's better, or some of the coral calcium and things like that are some great supplements.
That's in the book too.
Yes, I do go over that in the book as well.
Well, let's head on over to our mailbag question this week. It's always very fascinating, Dr. Gray. This is one with troublesome neighbors again, and I think this is a much more tentative event than we talk about. Just kind of go tell somebody something. I don't think you can do that. Neighbor's going to be dropping water balloons on you or something. My neighbors who live above will not be quiet. I have tried to reason with them, but it doesn't seem to work. How can I make peace without problem? Paula in Upper. And she's up. Charlie, what do you do?
The noisemaker lives upstairs?
Right.
Oh, well, my grandfather, I tell you what my grandfather did. To get if my grandmother was upstairs visiting with ladies, at a certain time of night, he'd poke the ceiling with a broom. It's a subtle hint on, hey, it's time to get to bed. No, I don't know what you would do about somebody living up.
Yeah, see, because I think if you have a neighbor that close to you and you irritate them, you're going to have a problem.
Oh,
it's going to be big time issue. You can go up and threaten them all you want, but it's going to be an issue. Dr. Gray, what would you do?
I don't know. I've been on the other end of that sometimes because I love hearing Fritz stuff that he talks about because I'm kind of a home theater movie junkie, and so sometimes people tell me to turn my movies down because they're up a little bit, but I just try to do what I can to turn it down and not blow them out of the apartment or anything like that. But if they're just not listening, I mean, you may have to go to the authorities. It's one thing that you don't want to do, but if someone's not willing to reason with you, that's disrespectful, and you may have to do things that you don't want to do, but it's not your fault that you have to do that.
I certainly don't think it's your fault, but I think the problem then becomes, are you willing to deal with the repercussion? I mean, the noise is bad, but somebody coming down and slugging you across the face might be worse for you.
Yeah, I hope they wouldn't do that to Paula.
Yeah, well, that's what, a woman who lives alone may be even more of a problem.
I'll just be worried about the repercussions of it. Yeah.
What do you think, Mary Ann?
That is a very, very difficult thing to settle. I think the person has to be very diplomatic when they complain. And, just try to really be nice and say, is there something that I can do to help you cut down on the noise? I mean, maybe the walls are very thin, who knows? But another thing that upset people, and it's upset me before, is to have neighbors that have little dogs that go. I've never complained, but I've always felt like it.
Why don't you?
I just don't want to do that. I just,
I know.
Because you can't help it. It's a dog. What are you going to, can't tell the dog not to do it. So how are you going to?
I think it comes back to the thin wall thing, if it's thin
No,
walls.
this is neighbors across the street.
Oh, well.
But there's been something that has happened, because I don't hear it anymore. I think there's something that you can get to stop your dog from barking like that. It seems to me I read something, I don't know what it is, but no,
Stun
it's
gun.
not a problem. No. And I love dogs, and I love animals, so it's, the poor dog is, unhappy, I guess, but
Fritz, what do you think?
Well, is it an apartment, a condo,
Yes.
private home?
We have to-
Who's the landlord?
I don't know who the landlord
And I
is.
think that and what kind of noise is it? Is it like the Doc's television set? Is it break dancing on the living room floor? Is it a musician who's got a 4,000 watt amp sitting in the living room? So I think a little more information would be needed before. As I say, there is always the landlord, unless the person upstairs is the landlord, then you got a problem.
Earplugs. Earplugs. Why not earplugs? You'll be able to sleep right through it. If you have a question for the mailbag, you can join us on Facebook under the name The Exchange Marion, or email us at irmcommunication@gmail.com. Thank you, Doctor. We'll be back on Thursday. Here's a